Hello everyone and welcome to Sci-Fi Zone, where we celebrate science fiction movies and TV shows from the past, the present and the future. With me I've got Claire and MPS, and of course we're coming to you from the wonderful comic book store of alternate worlds. It's all very exciting stuff. A couple of weeks ago the movie Men in Black International got released, and it's fair to say that it hasn't done too well with the critics, and I was just curious to think from yourselves, the idea of whether the franchise was actually a good idea to go past just the first movie. I don't know if you guys have even seen the film yet.
Look, I think it's a bit sort of iffy because they did 3 Men in Black films. The first one was really good. The second one started like every other series of films, a little bit worse. I haven't even seen the third one.
I didn't even know there was a third one. I thought this was the third one.
No,
so
this is the
fourth
fourth
one.
one.
I realise that now. Yeah.
So it's like, well, look, I can see what they've done. You know, you got Chris Hemsworth and you got Tessa Thompson. You know, Thor and Valkyrie back together again, essentially, in a sci-fi, another sci-fi sort of thing. But I don't know. Look, it's I don't know.
That brings up a very good question. I'm going to ask you about this. Men in Black, when they're not men.
I know.
What's the deal with that?
I know. I find that I don't quite know how to react to that. I mean, even when it first came out, it was very kind of exclusive. You know, it was Men in Black, and that's, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really comfortable with it, but I don't quite know what to say or how to react.
I think the trailer actually, if you watch the trailer, Emma Thompson's character, when Valkyrie goes Men in Black, she goes, "Yes, let's not talk about that." I think they do maybe cover it slightly. I don't think it's a.
But that's not even covering it. I mean, the name of the movie is still Men in Black.
I get that.
At least they acknowledge it, but I don't. I'm not sure that's enough.
It needs to be like People in Black now. It's like the movie League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, when there was a female in there, Mina Harker, and you go, hang on, how does that work? So, yeah, I don't know. It's just.
I mean, that had more of an excuse because it was a product of its time originally.
Yeah, true.
Men in Black is not that older series.
It's a modern series of films, but it's also comic book based.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, you sort of, if you look at from that point of view, perhaps, and I'm only taking a guess here, that as we know, the majority of comic book heroes, villains, characters are generally male. Generally, I'm going to say. I'm not saying they're all male.
Less now than they used to be,
you know,
but
yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know, even so, even if I was making something based on a comic book called Men in Black, in this day and age, I'd be thinking twice about that title.
I tend to actually agree with you, because if you're thinking that way, then other women would be as well. And potentially it could actually alienate some of your audience who go, you know what, I'm not going for it.
Yeah, and there are a lot of us out there.
Yeah,
it's not like we're a small proportion of the population.
And that's probably why they've added the hottest new sort of couple in film to sort of come out. You know, they worked well together. They look completely different. He's not Fat Thor anymore. He's skinny,
I've got to say,
Asian,
I'm not sure I buy him in this role. I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can't really comment.
Well, he does have an English accent.
Even just from the ads, it doesn't feel right to me, him in that role. I mean, he's a great actor, and you know, he's done a lot of really good stuff. But this one, I'm not sure it's going to work.
The thing, I haven't seen it either. The thing that I thought was intriguing is it's, you know, international, set in other countries or whatever. But Men in Black, the concept was always meant to be the US, the Secret Service, CIA kind of, you know, in the dark vans and all this sort of thing. So I don't know if it can exist in different countries.
Well, if you look at you look at how the original films were set up. You know, you had aliens all over the place. They were whatever shape, size, Frank the dog, and you know, all that sort of thing. So, and I believe this one's set in England, or mostly in the sort of that area in the UK sort of thing.
Makes sense given what we've seen.
And you know, you got Emma Thompson.
I love Emma Thompson. I'm actually, if there's one thing I'm looking forward to in this, it's seeing what Emma Thompson does. I think she's great. I think she looks amazing in the trailer. It'll be interesting to see.
You got Liam Neeson, so it's almost like a Love Actually meets Thor.
A little bit, yeah.
So, you know, who knows what you could get from that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all goes, and whether other films will be following on from the franchise now. That, like a lot of franchises, it sort of starts off on a high and it sort of works its way down the food chain a little bit. But we'll keep our eyes open. At some point, we may end up watching it ourselves and actually talking about it a bit more. You know, we might come back and go, "Oh, it was fantastic. We absolutely love it." We'll have to wait and see. Speaking of waiting and seeing things, we'll be back after these messages, I'll get that word right eventually, to talk about something very exciting. Back soon.
Alternate Worlds has been specialising in comics and collectibles for over 40 years, with a back issue collection of over 500,000 comics covering the golden age right through to latest releases, including signed and slabbed gems. They also have an enormous graphic novel collection, one of the largest ranges of manga in the country, as well as toys, statues and pops, and new items are arriving every Wednesday. Each month, Alternate Worlds hosts its own premium comic day, where all the rare treasures are put on display for inspection and purchase. The store also runs regular tournaments and competitions for both comic and gaming fans. And for local and interstate and international buyers, the Alternate Worlds website features their complete range of products, so whether you come in online or in store, visit them soon.
Welcome back to the show. One of the most controversial questions that anybody can come up with is, what is the greatest science fiction movie ever made? Now, of course, we have to delineate.
Men in Black International, I believe.
There we go. Oh, that was from our last episode. Did you like? Actually, it wasn't. That was our last comment. Yeah, last segment. Oh, I'm losing track of things. The key thing is you have to differentiate between favourite and greatest, because what can be your most favourite movie all the time doesn't necessarily have to be the greatest. So if your favourite movie happens to be Men in Black International, there you go. How good is that? But I'd like to actually bring up something that could be a tad controversial, as these things often are, as to what I think is the greatest science fiction movie ever made, and it is not 2001: A Space Odyssey. The thing I find about a film to fit into a category like this is that it has to be thought-provoking, it has to have a good story, excellent characters, and stand the test of time. So the film that works for me, and I've watched a lot of science fiction movies, and you're going to think, okay, it's sort of come back to The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original version from 1951. So you might be asking, well, why would I think that way? What is the justification for that? The key thing is, there's a number of things. One, at that time, and it's not just because it was made when it was made, but at the time, aliens, whenever they came to Earth, were here to destroy everything, take over, ruin everything. This is a rare occasion, maybe even the first occasion, where an alien comes to Earth in peace. And his role here, we're talking about Klaatu, of course, and his mission here is to discuss with humanity about their warring concepts with nuclear power and how it could spread out into the universe and cause a whole lot of problems. So effectively, is there as a messenger saying, hey, settle down, slow down, take it easy. And because there are elements of the movie which are still relevant today, other than that sequence, because there's a bit in the film where Klaatu and the government official are trying to organise a meeting with all the heads of government from around the world. And the official says, well, we can't have it in this country because this guy won't meet with that president. And you can't have it in that country because that president won't meet with this other president because of all the conflicts. And that still happens today, like 70 years later. I love the fact that the characters are really quite strong. Klaatu mixes in with human society and gets to see what everybody is like. And of course, when he walks into the house and the boarding house, and they've got the radio on, and their radio announcer says, yes, we must find the alien, we must kill the alien because he's evil and he's got bad intentions. And Klaatu's sitting there listening to all this. And of course, in today's environment, it would probably be very, very similar. Something different, something unusual has to be feared, hated, hunted down and destroyed. And I thought that was actually very, very, very relevant. So it was good to see, and of course this is based on the idea that with America in the 1950s, that it was leading into what like Russia was doing, for example, Russian spies, and they even make a subtle reference to that at the time, saying, well, we know who we're talking about in regards to those who are just slipping in unannounced and just infiltrating their society. But Klaatu, being a human, which is good to see rather than just being an actual alien, finds his way into society, meets Bobby, the little kid, who, for a change, little kids aren't that annoying. This particular one, he's all right. Some kids in movies, they tend to just get grate on your nerves very, very quickly. But I thought that actually worked out quite well, because one of the things that does work for the film in a really, really good way, even for the 1950s, it has strong male and female characters. So Helen Benson, who plays the female in the movie, aside from one bit where she has a bit of a scream with Gort coming at her, very intellectual, very switched on, doesn't just run away and scream and do whatever else and say, oh my God, there's an alien, it's a panic, 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 panic. Actually listens to what Klaatu has to say and understands where he's coming from. So that, I think, was really revolutionary for movies of that time. Yeah. Absolutely.
So it sounds like what we're hearing is this film is doing what other sci-fi films and series have been doing for quite some time, and talking about the issues of today,
Yep.
but from an alien perspective. You know, governments don't want to meet and all that sort of stuff. Today, if an alien came to the planet, the first thing they would do is encounter the UN possibly, and then all the leaders would be like, I want to meet him because I want to use his resources and power to destroy the next government. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually a very, very, very good point. That's why the US in the movie were so intent on keeping Klaatu there. And of course, when he escapes, pandemonium breaks out. And of course, when he lands in the first place, he tries to present the gift to the military general, and they shoot him. And they actually make a point of saying, well, and this is Helen Benson, the female character, says, well, he did just turn up and he was, he come in peace, and they fired at him, and because it's that whole thing of, using aggression for things that you fear. And I thought that was actually very poignant, and I still believe that would happen today. Some parts of society wouldn't, but some parts certainly would.
It would depend a lot on where he landed.
Yep, true.
I think.
Yes.
Although no matter where he lands on the planet, there are going to be people who will, as you say, want to use him for
You can't help but think if he
resources.
landed in North Korea today, how that would work. But that's a completely different topic for another discussion. But you get the point of where it all comes from. And in this case, he lands in Washington, which is kind of handy. And but yeah, you are right though. Once you see this sort of technology, everyone would be wanting to keep it for itself, for themselves. And I found the film had a huge, high level of entertainment. It was a good story in that Klaatu is here. He gets to see how humanity works. He befriends Bobby. They tried to organise the meeting with the scientists, which doesn't exactly sort of work out the way it's meant to. Gort, of course, your big robot. You've got to have a big robot in a movie to make it really, really groovy. It doesn't exactly do a lot, but when he does do something, it's really, really significant. And I think that was actually another selling point for the film as well.
Did you know when they made the film, they used the military, but the military weren't interested in actually being involved in it, so they brought in the Coast Guard. And the Coast Guard said, yeah, we'll come in and play that role for you. So, and the fact that the character that was inside the Gort costume, he wasn't strong enough to actually hold the girl when he carried her.
No, he wasn't.
So they needed to rig her up with wires for one scene, and then for the others they had to use another mannequin that was easier. So yeah, some behind the scenes production stuff there.
Yeah, exactly right. And I still think it stands the test of time for that reason, in the fact that a lot of the things that happened then are still current now. And you look at all the movies that have come since then, and some films will have strengths in a lot of areas, but it's not very often you come across one that you think, you know what, it ticks all these boxes. Great story. It is entertaining. It is a bit of a chase sequence. It's like got the science fiction element, of course. And he's like, well, what's going to happen at the end? And that's what the ending you don't really sort of expect. But when Klaatu escapes and he's just walking along the street, and when you first see him introduced in the boarding house, and he's just this black silhouette, and then he just walks into the room and everybody's freaking out because, oh my God, the alien's on the loose, where is he? And it's a little bit like today where people say, oh, he's got 15 eyes, and you got laser blasters and all this sort of thing. Completely not what the truth is, but of course that's how the media would be presenting it. And of course a person on the street would just be going, well, the news has said that he's got ray guns coming out of his eyes, so therefore he must have ray guns coming out of his eyes, and that's playing up to the paranoia.
That bit of Chinese whispers would sort of kick in, where you go, oh, I've seen him and it's like he's this, but you actually haven't seen him. You don't know what you're looking at to find what it is, and then it just gets blown out of proportion.
Well, it'd be interesting if it happened today in terms of that sort of part of it, because we have this whole fake news thing that's going on, but we also have social media, and everyone has a camera on their phone.
Yes.
So would it be fake news? Would it be, I think it would be harder to push the fear and terror onto everyone, because there would be people out there who would potentially have the truth, and it's much easier to spread that as well, to balance it.
And I think that people more today would actually want to embrace this person from another civilization, but you would want to sit down and say, well, you're from another place, tell me about it. We're not all afraid as what humanity was years ago.
I don't know, I think there have always been people who would be like that, and again it comes down to where they land. If they land somewhere and the first people they meet are these sorts of people who are curious, interested, can think about things before they react to things, then there's a fair chance that it'll turn out all right. But if not, if they land somewhere where the people that they first meet have this fear of the unknown, and anything that's strange has to be bad and therefore should be destroyed, well, that it's a different story.
So if you haven't had a chance to watch the film, go back, and it is from the 50s. You have to accept it's a black and white movie. Everybody, it's not in colour.
Don't adjust your screen.
Don't adjust your screen. No, it's definitely in black and white, and it is worth having a look at.
And make sure you're watching the original, not the remake.
Yes. Like a lot of things, they did try to remake it, and it didn't quite work, which is a bit unfortunate. But so that's the reason why, for me, I class it as the greatest sci-fi movie made, because it ticks all the boxes. Even though there's a lot of other movies which look better and faster and sound good and all the rest of it, I think that there's a lot going for it too. And here's one for you. I actually read a little thing recently where they're saying that Klaatu actually has links, connections, almost been inspired by Jesus Christ, of all things, because he lands to, he sort of becomes, he's like a, well, how do you describe it? Is an ethereal sort of important being. I don't know what the words are. He dies and then gets resurrected not that long after. There's these little gags that have been finding their way into this mindset as well, like the clothing that he steals from the army barracks is actually Major Carpenter. That's the name of the guy. And of course, Jesus Christ was a carpenter. Now, there's a rumour going around that his first name is supposed to be John, as in John J.C., Jesus Christ, but there's no reference to that in the film at all. And as a complete gag, at the start of the movie when the ship is first flying across the city, one of the radar operators says, "Holy Christmas." So there you go. So make of that what you will, but yes, all very good stuff. But anyway.
Well, it feeds into that thought that I think we talked about it, I don't know, last episode or a couple episodes ago, about the whole controversy thing, people having to, not being able to survive without having some kind of conflict. And it feeds into that idea of someone externally coming in to solve our problems for us.
Yes, exactly right. And that's, of course, what's supposed to be happening here. And and that's sort of, it worked out the way it did. So so if you get a chance, check out Day the Earth Stood Still. Guarantee you'll love it. And if anybody watches it and goes, "Oh, it's a terrible movie," don't talk to me, because I don't want to hear from you. So there you go. Very, very, very good stuff. Okay, so that actually brings us to the end of the episode. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our channel, click on the bell for all the latest updates and all the latest news going on with our show. We'll be back next week with more trivia. How exciting is that, with our fun frolics and factoids, because it's the end of the month. So be sure to stay excited and stay in the zone. Okay, bye for now.